I've worked at Walmart for about 2 years, mostly night shifts. I'm usually the guy zoning aisles and handling go-backs before close. It's not bad. Quiet, easy enough, and I don't have to deal with crowds. But every now and then, the silence feels wrong. This happened a few months back. I was scheduled for a closing shift on a Thursday night. Nothing unusual, typical post-dinner lull, a few customers grabbing last-minute items, and the usual background noise of scanners and soft music on loop. I was restocking the end cap near the electronics section when I noticed him. Mid-30s, I'd guess. Long brown coat, baseball cap, jeans. He walked in just after 9:15. That's late, but not uncommon. I gave him the usual, hey there nod and went back to sorting DVDs. At first, I didn't think much of him. He walked like he had a purpose, but never grabbed a cart or basket. Just wandered, aisle to aisle, electronics, home goods, seasonal. I passed him a few times while zoning, and every time he'd be in a new section, just looking. Not at items, really, just looking around. By 9:40, most customers had cleared out. We close at 10, so that's when the music gets a little quieter and the closing announcements start. He was still there. I found him standing in the toy section, staring at a shelf of Hot Wheels. Still nothing in his hands, still no cart. I asked him if he needed help finding something. He didn't answer at first, just kind of tilted his head and said, "No, just browsing." I went back to the front and let my team lead know we had a lingerer. Nothing too alarming. Some people don't realize how fast closing comes up on them. We agreed to keep an eye out. At 9:55, I walked the store to gently nudge anyone still shopping, but by then it was just him. He was standing in the apparel section now, between racks of women's hoodies, still empty-handed, still browsing. "Hey man, just a heads up," I said as casually as I could. "We're closing in 5. He didn't look at me, just nodded slowly and said, "Yeah, I know." There was something about his tone that sat wrong with me. Like he wasn't acknowledging the store's closing so much as savoring it. I stayed nearby while he slowly walked to the front. He didn't go to checkout, just loitered near the self-checkout kiosks, hands in his pockets, eyes flicking between the exit and the front lanes. Our store closes sharp. At 10:01, we locked the doors. Most of us were gathered at the front. My team lead, a cashier, and one of the security guys. The guy still hadn't bought anything. "Sir," my lead said, stepping up, "we're closed for the night." He didn't argue, just smiled thinly and said, "Sorry, lost track of time." Then he walked out. We locked the doors behind him, and that should have been it. But it wasn't. I stayed behind to help with final go-backs. At about 10:15, while walking through the home goods section, I saw movement outside the store, through the big glass windows. It was him. He was standing near the entrance, staring through the doors, just standing there, motionless, like he was waiting. I radioed security. "Hey, that guy's back. Front doors." They said they'd check it out. I kept working, but something kept gnawing at me. So I circled back toward the front a few minutes later, and he was gone. Or so I thought. A few minutes after 10:30, I was in the back room when one of the girls from cosmetics came in looking pale. "There's a dude in the bathroom," she whispered. "He just came out of the stall and scared the hell out of me." I froze. Nobody had been in the store for at least half an hour. All exits were locked. We had no open departments left, no late-night cleaning crew, just 6 of us closing. Security checked the cameras. At 10:01, he left the store. At 10:03, a side employee door near the loading dock cracked open, just a sliver, then closed. He had never really left. We called the cops immediately. By the time they got there, he was gone again. This time for real. Cameras caught him slipping back out the loading dock emergency door, something he clearly knew how to trigger without setting off the alarm. They searched the store and the surrounding lot. Nothing. But here's the kicker. Inside the men's room, hidden behind the trash bin, they found a backpack. It was empty except for gloves, a box cutter, and a bottle of water. We don't know what he planned, or why he came back in. But this wasn't some lost shopper or confused guy with bad timing. He knew our routines, he knew how to slip in unnoticed, and he was waiting. I still work there, but I never zone alone after 10, and every time I walk past that bathroom, I check the stalls, twice, because he never bought anything. He never wanted anything from the store. He wanted someone. This happened back in March, on a Thursday night. I remember that because it was the same day I had a night class I absolutely hated. 3 hours of barely comprehensible statistics. When it finally ended, I just wanted to decompress. I figured I'd swing by Walmart to grab a couple things before heading home. The store was on the way, and I had a hoodie in mind that I'd been debating for over a week. It was around 9:30 p.m. when I pulled into the parking lot. The sky was clear, and a few scattered cars were left. That weird sort of calm had settled over everything, the kind you only get in places that are still open but feel like they shouldn't be. The fluorescent lights inside lit up the store like a stage, and for a second it felt peaceful. Inside, it was mostly empty. I passed a young couple by the frozen section and saw 2 employees stocking shelves in the home goods area. Aside from that, it was just me and the sound of soft pop music playing overhead. I grabbed a basket and made a beeline for the pharmacy area to get some shampoo. That's when I first noticed her. She bumped into me. Just a small brush of the shoulder, but enough to catch my attention. She was wearing a gray hoodie, hood up, long dark hair falling out from underneath. She didn't look at me. Didn't apologize. She just kept walking like nothing had happened. I didn't think much of it at the time. People get awkward in public, but then I saw her again. 2 aisles over. And again, 3 aisles later. Always behind me, always walking slowly. She never had anything in her hands. Never once glanced at the shelves. Just walked, like she was waiting for me to go somewhere first. By the time I hit the clothing section and grabbed the hoodie I wanted, I was officially uncomfortable. I paused near a rack of sweaters and pretended to scroll on my phone, trying to give her a chance to pass or leave the area. She didn't. Instead, she stood near the end of the aisle, partially turned toward me. Still empty-handed. Still not shopping. That's when I knew something was off. This wasn't just a coincidence. I ditched the rest of my list and headed toward the front of the store. I figured I'd grab a soda from the cooler by the checkout, pay, and get the hell out. When I opened the cooler door, I caught her reflection in the glass, standing at the end of the snack aisle, barely visible behind a cardboard display, watching me. It didn't look like she was trying to shoplift or cause a scene. She looked patient, calculated, like this was something she'd done before. I power walked to the self-checkout. My heart was thudding, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. Maybe she was just socially awkward. Maybe she was waiting for someone. Maybe. I scanned my items quickly, and when I glanced to the side, there she was again, standing a few lanes over, next to a rack of gift cards. No cart, no basket, no items, just staring directly at me. That's when I knew I wasn't overthinking it. The cashier on duty, a girl with short pink hair, must have noticed something was off. She wasn't even working my lane, but she walked by slowly and lingered near my register like she was pretending to clean something. When I finished paying, she handed me my receipt with a smile and tucked a small yellow sticky note in between. I unfolded it discreetly. The note said, "Don't go to your car, wait here. She's not alone." My blood ran cold. I looked up at her, stunned. She gave me a quick glance, then casually motioned toward the front where the security office was. I left my stuff at the register and followed her as calmly as I could, my skin crawling the entire way. The woman didn't follow, but I could feel her eyes boring into my back. The cashier led me behind a door marked "Employees Only" into a small break room where a security guard was already on the phone. "They've been watching you for 15 minutes, she whispered. She wasn't shopping. She just kept tailing you. Every aisle." The security guard hung up and looked at me. "Cops are on the way, stay here." He pulled up the camera feed on his tablet. It showed a grainy but clear image of the woman standing by the checkout area, still not moving. Then he flipped to the parking lot camera. There was a white van circling slowly. No front plates, headlights off. It had passed the main doors 3 times in the last 5 minutes. By the time the police arrived, the van was already pulling away. They caught it just before it exited the parking lot. Inside were two men. One was the driver. The other was hiding in the back. They found a duffel bag filled with duct tape, zip ties, gloves, and a roll of black trash bags. The woman? She vanished. They searched the store top to bottom, even went through the bathrooms and storage area. She was just gone. The van had been reported in a nearby town just a few weeks earlier. Same MO. Victim was never found. They took my statement and offered me an escort home, which I accepted without hesitation. I never went back to that Walmart again, even though it was the most convenient one near me. What sticks with me the most isn't the van, or even the stuff inside it. It's that note. She's not alone. Because someone like that doesn't just randomly pick you. She was waiting, watching. And if that cashier hadn't noticed, if I'd walked out alone into that nearly empty parking lot, well, I probably wouldn't be here to tell you about it. This happened back in January, on a Wednesday night. I had just finished up a late shift at Walmart, the kind of shift that leaves you exhausted and ready to get home and curl up in bed. It was about 9:45 p.m., and the store was mostly empty, just a few late-night shoppers grabbing last-minute essentials before closing. I was tired, in a bit of a rush, and eager to get home. I grabbed my things, a few snacks, some shampoo, and a book I'd been eyeing for weeks, and made my way to the front registers. It was the usual routine. Scan, pay, head out. I didn't expect anything out of the ordinary. As I walked out of the store and into the parking lot, I felt that strange, prickling sensation at the back of my neck. You know the one. The kind of feeling that makes your heart race for no good reason. I ignored it at first. The parking lot was mostly empty, and it was cold, with the air thick with fog. The silence felt heavy, but I was only a few steps from my car, and I convinced myself it was nothing. That's when I heard a voice. "Hey, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second?" I stopped in my tracks, my stomach tightening. I turned around, and there was a man standing by the entrance to the parking lot, a few rows over from where I was parked. He looked like he was in his mid-30s, tall with dark hair and a slightly scruffy beard, and his hands were stuffed deep into his pockets. He was staring at me, and the way he looked at me made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, taking a few steps closer. "I'm kind of in a bad situation. Could you help me out?" My first instinct was to ignore him, keep walking, and get to my car as quickly as possible. But there was something about the way he spoke, his tone, almost pleading, that made me hesitate. I should have just kept walking, but I didn't. "Help you with what?" I asked, trying to sound calm, but I could already feel my heart beginning to race. Something about the way he was standing, so still, gave me a bad feeling. He looked around the lot like he was making sure no one was watching, before speaking again. "I've been trying to get in touch with a friend, but my phone died, and I'm just trying to get a ride back home. I'm stranded out here, and I don't have any cash for a rideshare." He paused, his eyes never leaving mine. "Could you just let me use your phone for a minute? Just to call my friend. It'll only take a second." I felt a knot form in my stomach. It was the late hour, the emptiness of the parking lot, and the fact that I was alone. No one else was around. No witnesses. I glanced toward the entrance of the store, but the doors were locked, and the employees were all inside now. I didn't know what to do. He looked harmless enough, right? But something in his voice, it didn't sit right. "I'm sorry," I said, starting to turn away. "I can't help you with that." But he didn't let me go. "I don't mean to scare you," he said quickly, his tone shifting to something more insistent. "It's just, I really need help. Please, I'll be quick. It's a real emergency." His words were too rehearsed, too smooth. I felt my chest tighten. There was a strange calmness in his demeanor, almost like he was expecting me to say no. And I was starting to get the feeling that he was going to get what he wanted no matter what. I really have to go," I said, my voice shaky now. I forced myself to keep walking toward my car, trying to act like nothing was wrong, hoping he would just let me be. But then I heard his footsteps behind me. "Please," he called out again, a little louder this time. "I just need your help. I swear I'm not going to hurt you." I felt his presence getting closer, and that's when I panicked. I hurried toward my car, fumbling for my keys in my bag. My hands were shaking, my mind racing. My car was only a few feet away, but it felt like it might as well have been miles. Just as I reached the door, I heard him stop. His voice was quieter now, almost desperate. "I didn't want to do this," he said, his words strange, like he was speaking through clenched teeth. "But I really don't have a choice." In that instant, I heard the sound of something heavy dropping onto the pavement behind me. It was a sharp, metallic sound like a knife hitting the ground. That's when the real fear hit me. I turned to look, but I didn't see him anymore. Instead, I saw a long, dark shape in the shadows, his silhouette standing still. I yanked open my car door, slammed it shut, and locked it in one motion. I didn't even think. I just threw the keys in the ignition and sped out of the parking lot, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look back. I didn't want to. The next morning, I called the store and asked if they had any security footage of that night. They said they'd check, but they called me back a few hours later, saying there was nothing. They couldn't find anything unusual. But I'm not stupid. That man wasn't asking for help. He wasn't stranded. He had something planned, and I wasn't about to become a part of it. I don't go out at night alone anymore, and every time I walk to my car, I check behind me. I can still hear that voice in my head. I didn't want to do this, and I don't think he ever wanted to help me.